What's going on, guys? What is going on? Laura, we're the only two here. How are you? Hopefully you're doing good. Pete, what's going on, man? Just kind of waiting for people to start showing up. I'm good. A little chilly. Winter's starting to come. I'm good with that. Besides that, there's not much going on. Not much going on at all. Anthony, what's going on, man? It's not that bad. Like if I come out early in the morning, it'll be cold, but it's not that bad. Not bad at all. Kind of being a puss, actually. But I was outside all day today, and it was a little chilly and gets breezy, and it's the nature of the beast, man. Nature of the beast. Kind of burn some time while people log in. Last lecture of the unit. For those of you who have Wednesday classes, remember that tomorrow there's no school at all. Campus is closed. Tomorrow's Veterans Day, so make sure you don't log into another class or try to go to campus or whatever, because it's going to be closed. So tomorrow's Veterans Day, no school, no nothing. Not even administration will be there. And then obviously we start a new unit next week, and then I think the week after that we do meet. That is Thanksgiving week, if I'm doing the math correctly. And then once we come back from Thanksgiving, it's not. I think we have one class after that, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look at the schedule next week when we meet. I'll have a calendar together for you guys and kind of go over the dates and all that kind of stuff. But we're pretty close to the end, so make sure that you're staying on top of your whatever, your classes, your comments, your papers, your projects, whatever it is. Make sure you're locking it up, because like I said, once Thanksgiving rolls around, we're pretty much done. And trying to get in touch with people towards the middle of December gets really hard. I mean, just a lot of the teachers are off campus. They start, they wrap up grades, and they want to have their time too. So make sure if you got stuff to handle administratively, if you have to go turn in paperwork at admissions or whatever you're trying to do, get it done sooner than later. Getting it done before Thanksgiving means you probably get an answer during Christmas time. If you get it turned in during Christmas time, who knows how that's going to turn out for you. So make sure you're staying on top of your stuff. I'm going to give you your assignment in a little bit. I will try, as I'm talking, to update. There was going to be a couple questions I was going to throw your way, but I might have to condense that a little bit. I probably should have emailed that to you before, but so be it. We got people here, so I'm assuming that we're going to go ahead and just start rolling. Okay, so if you can open up your Canvas page to the page entitled Fiber People Fiber. there's some numbers there that, or at least an explanation and some numbers that we should probably be aware of. So why fiber? And it's simple, and it kind of goes back to when we were talking about saturated fat last week, and what happens, why saturated diets high in saturated fat have a tendency to be higher cardiovascular death risks, higher cardiovascular issues risks, higher chances of type 2 diabetes, higher chances of colon cancer in particular, but all cancers. And that's that. It all has to do with basically the same thing. Like you're going to eat a certain amount of foods, and your mind is kind of it's habit forming. You're very habit forming, and unfortunately, what happens is your mind and therefore you get into these habits, and it's almost like groove in a hill of snow. You keep going down in the same spot, it's going to create, a nice little slide for you that just makes it easier to get in and out, right? To just kind of do your thing. And when you start to live your life like that, you don't kind of think about and plan your meals. You're eating out of convenience. Maybe other parts of your life are more important: school, work, relationships, whatever it is. When kind of planning your diet and thinking about your food isn't at the forefront of your thought, you kind of have a tendency to get into these habits, right? You get into that groove, and sometimes that groove has a tendency to be foods of convenience, right? So we talked a little bit about this last week. We all have milk, we all have bread, we all have these things that we consume every day. And to be completely like cereal, completely honest with you, cereal is a very lazy food. And I don't mean to knock anyone who eats cereal, but I mean, I don't think it should be completely eliminated from your diet, but I don't think it should play a daily role in your diet. It's the ultimate food of convenience. Bread is the ultimate food of convenience. And we get into these kind of habits of eating, and we forget to the importance of diversifying our food. And in particular, when I talk about diversifying our food, I really mean starting to get more fiber. You're only going to really lean towards so many carbohydrates in your diet. So if you're having a lot of refined carbohydrate in the form of bread, in the form of cereals, in the form of liquid calories, if you're consuming too many of those, you're not going to get the more nutrient dense form of that plant. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at the difference between carbohydrates. So in other words, there are bad carbs, and we probably as a group, just our little group right here that's in class together, kind of, right? We have a tendency to probably consume way more of the processed than we do of the whole grain, right? Of the refined more than the unrefined. And just by that alone, we are lacking or we're not getting the nutrient density that we can get from whole grain foods through their refined counterparts. It doesn't work that way. Rice is not white. Okay. Flour, wheat is not white. Those are highly processed foods that are stripped of their bran. They're stripped of their germ, right? And if you're looking at these definitions here and you're looking at that graphic, if you can kind of open up that graphic a little bit, the bran is the outer shell. That's where we find a lot of really dense, nutrient dense material, but we're getting solid fiber, right? We're getting that product that our body can't necessarily break down, and that actually helps to to clean the colon, to clean out your digestive system. One of the reasons why, again, going back to saturated fat, why diets high in saturated fat are correlate to colon cancer is because a lot of those people are consuming refined carbohydrates. It doesn't have the fiber. The fiber has been damaged, or the food structure has been changed to the point that it's not fibrous material. It acts more like paste. It acts more like material that's going to block you up, right, and not help your body kind of clean out. Your colon is not a rigid, your digestive system is not a rigid PVC pipe. It's an accordion, very soft material. We need fiber to help clean out the colon. It's not uncommon for people who are overweight and obese that a percentage of that body weight is actually unexpelled fecal matter. It's actually waste buildup in the colon as a result of a lack of fiber. And obviously just not as nutrient dense. We don't see the levels of fiber, protein, our B vitamins, other minerals and cofactors. We don't see that in a processed flour like we see in a whole grain, right? So just take a look at those numbers a little bit and look at the graphic there. You'll see that essentially what happens is the bran is stripped in the processing. When processing carbohydrate, the bran is stripped, and the germ is removed, and all you're getting is the endosperm. Well, if you look at the endosperm, it's almost completely carbohydrate. So what they're doing is they're breaking the sugar, breaking that up, mashing that up, and giving you just the sugar. They're not giving you any of the fiber or any of the germ, which is where we find antioxidants, again, B vitamins, even vitamin C, other minerals and cofactors that we need. So, fiber because of the nutrient value of fiber, but there's also a couple other things here. Obviously, digestively, your body relies on fiber to kind of facilitate that movement, having good daily bowel movements. With that said, there's a little bit more too. We're beginning to understand that your microbiome, your gut bacteria, not only plays a role in your weight management, but it plays a role in a ton of cognitive things like focusing, like having a steady mood, not being someone whose mood is fluctuating a lot. And even, there's some gut bacteria stuff tied to things like autism and ADD and ADHD. So we know that the gut, that the biome, the microbiome, the gut biome needs to be, in balance. It needs to be healthy. In other words, we don't want to be consistently feeding it the wrong thing because it mutates the biome. We want to keep it. We want to keep that diversity healthy, right? And the only really way to do that is fiber. And there are some people out there, some studies out there suggest that when you're not getting enough fiber, when you're not getting that satiation, that little trigger in your brain, that little sweet tooth in your brain that you get after a meal is actually coming from your lower GI tract. It's coming because they're not getting anything, right? So again, the fiber not only helps facilitate just good digestive health. The other thing it acts as a prebiotic, right? So we have, you hear a lot of talk about probiotics. Probiotics are good, but the bottom line is your digestive tract is pretty much locked in at a very young age. There's not much that I've seen or read about from credible sources that you can do to change your gut bacteria by consuming probiotics, mainly by consuming probiotics. In other words, your mouth and your stomach are too acidic of an environment for probiotics to kind of make it into the digestive tract at all, right? So what we need is prebiotic food, right? So you serve your gut prebiotic food that acts as a breeding ground for probiotics, right? So making sure that we're consuming a various number of fibrous foods, because the fiber is going to make it all the way down through the lower GI tract, and make sure that the cells down there are getting what they need, right? That the gut bacteria down there are getting what they need. So, the other thing with fiber is, I'm trying to cheat and find a couple of my notes here, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. They're kind of all over the place. The other thing with fiber is people who eat a lot of fiber have a tendency to have much lower cholesterol, much lower inflammation in the blood. And again, this probably has a lot to do with the fact that you're actually helping your body move waste out of your body. In other words, there are side effects to having built up fecal matter in your system. I mean, it's gonna excrete, and it's gonna continue to break down. It's not like it's completely isolated. It's going to have, and albeit it could be very small, but it's going to have a negative effect on your physiological being, on your body. That's not going to be a good thing, right? When you are expelling waste, you are expelling waste. Your body wants to expel it. It doesn't want to hold on to it. But more importantly, with fiber is if you eat a good amount of fiber, you have a very full feeling. In other words, you're satiated. And a lot of times with highly processed food, that's not the case. I mean, I, for one, if I have waffles or pancakes in the morning, within a couple of hours, I'm starving. Like I could eat the whole kitchen at that point. And that it's because those simple sugars, they're just not that very satiating. And that's what makes people want to eat more of them. I mean, not only that they taste good, a lot of them are salty and a lot of them are sweet, but not only do they taste good, but they're not satiating. So, you could also look at it just visually, and I should probably hunt down a graphic, but 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories of oil is probably no bigger than this small bottle of water I have. But think about those calories in the forms of fruits and vegetables. You're looking at something significantly bigger. I mean, if you had 1,200 calories of fruits and vegetables, you're looking at a really big bowl compared to this very small bottle. So you get a fuller feeling. And one of the dangerous things about eating a ton of processed foods is you get such a high sugar content and so much high calories in such a small amount that instinctively the receptors in your stomach, they don't feel full. You're gonna want more, right? So you have a tendency not to overeat when you're consuming foods that are high in fiber. What are those foods? I mean, we know them: beans, legumes, lentils, obviously all fruits and vegetables, seeds, nuts, basically any plant material that's consumable is going to have a pre and probiotic effect in your system. It's going to give you, allow you to be just more consuming more nutrients on a daily basis. I mean, the other thing is people who have very high fiber diets are also people that rarely get dehydrated. And, that's another thing that quickly affects the way you're performing. It is rock solid science that if you're even 10%, 15% dehydrated, you're not even feeling thirsty yet. They have tests where they'll test your strength. Someone's pushing down on your shoulders and you have like to the tune of like 20% reduction in strength when you have like 10%, when you're like 10% dehydrated. The numbers are off the charts, right? So again, fiber, that fibrous food, not only is it taking nutrients down to the lower GI tract, but it's taking water, right? And that's good. That's essentially how your body metabolizes things and uses things as energy. It turns it into water, turns it into liquid, right? So staying hydrated is crucial, right? So fiber would probably be one of those things that, very similar to what I said last week about omega-3s. It's so important for you that, like I said, if you're not getting a lot of salmon, make sure you get yourself a good omega-3 supplement. If you're not eating a lot of fibrous food, if you're looking at your food and especially at the things that you have a tendency to eat a lot, look at those and see how good they are. If there's something that you really enjoy eating and you eat a lot of, find the best one. I mean, the bottom line is, if it's something you're going to eat every day, why not pay a little more to have the most top quality food, whatever it is? And typically with food, the more you pay, the better it is, the better quality it is, right? So incorporating fiber, not only because, again, you stay hydrated, you have a tendency to be leaner, you're getting more nutrient dense food, and more importantly, when we talk about something like fats, like we did last week, when we talk about meat and other things, you're able to have that and not necessarily have the negative consequences that are associated with diets that are high in meat, but also high in refined carbohydrates, right? We can have a diet that's relatively high in meat, but we want to meet that saturated fat with some of the monounsaturated fats and with the fiber, right? So we're talking about finding a way to shift our foods from, whatever type of meat, big simple carb or a lot of simple carbs. We want to get away from that. We can actually have that bigger piece of meat if we're having a good grain and a good fibrous counterpart, right? So kind of going back to the beginning of the class or the beginning of this unit when we talked about not losing anything. You don't have to lose anything. You just need to switch your choices a little bit. Having long grain rice is really no different than any other type of rice, or getting whole grain breads instead of like the rainbow bread. You'll find a bread you like, right? Staying away from the goodies, right? Staying away from the packaged goodies. So you're going to school, you're going to work with a container of food that you cooked, not a container of food that you opened up and heated up. Those are all steps in the right direction. The more you cook for yourself, you will more likely finding yourself eating the way you should, but more importantly, consuming the foods that you should, instead of, looking at a food item that has, 300 ingredients and most of which you cannot pronounce, compared to, what's in your cupboard. Salt, pepper, some seasoning, boom, that's all you need, right? That's all you need. A little butter, boom, that's all you need. So 30, 30, 30, I'll leave you with this. 30, 30, 30 is the way we should be living, right? We should be prioritizing our carbohydrate intake at about 30% of our overall intake. We should be looking at our fat intake at about 30% of our overall intake. Protein, about 30% of your overall intake. Obviously, those needs are going to change. If you're someone that's really overweight, you're probably going to have a time in your life, ideally sooner than later, where you take that 60, 70% carbohydrate intake and reduce that down to probably 10%. The only other way you're going to up that is, or get your calories, is by upping your fat or upping your protein. Either one will probably be fine. I would lean towards protein over fat, but at some point you're going to have to do that. There's some people that's just what has to happen, but most of you probably not. You're probably still young enough to where if you just got to that 30, 30, 30 group, whenever you put food in your mouth, you were consuming a protein, a fat, and a carbohydrate, and not a crappy carbohydrate, a good carbohydrate. If you just got to that in the 3-4 times a day that you're going to eat, avoiding those big sugar hits, right? If you just got to protein, fat, carbohydrate, 3-4 times a day, you would probably find your ideal weight very, very quickly, quicker than other people, and sometimes quicker than people who are trying to work out and do it all. Small changes, right? Very small changes. So we talked a little bit about milk and stuff like that. I'm not telling you that milk's good or bad. I'm not saying anything. What I'm saying is most of you probably are heavy on the carbohydrate side, and therefore heavy on the refined carbohydrate side. Milk is refined. Milk is processed. Milk is pasteurized, right? So your juice is pasteurized. That's why I said no juice, no milk, no liquid calories. Why? Because these are processed foods. They're pasteurized. Pasteurized is a temperature increase. That's what they do. Basically, they boil it. They can quick boil it and whatever, but the bottom line is they have to raise the temperature. And vitamin C is damaged by light and heat. That's why your orange juices are fortified with vitamin C. Your milk is fortified with vitamin D. That's because the original vitamin D and vitamin C were damaged, right? They were damaged. So when you're drinking a juice, it's different than eating an orange because you're not getting all that nutrient dense food. You're not getting all that bacteria from the orange. You're getting a heated up, boiled version of that, right? So going back to changes, right? That processed food, that's why I said don't drink milk, don't drink juice. Get away from that stuff a smidgen. Don't drink juice every day. If you drink juice every day right now, stop doing that. Don't drink milk every day. If you're drinking milk every day right now, don't do that. You're not a baby cow. Milk is for baby cows, right? You're a big person now. You can have water, you can have tea, you can have coffee, you can figure other things out that don't have calories that are good and good for you. Have a glass of wine if you are of the age, right? There are other things that you can do besides consuming liquid calories like juice and milk. There's some dudes in here, even some girls, you might hit the gym. Milk is a good post-workout drink. I'm not dogging milk, but for some people, milk is probably not a good idea. But again, bread, cereal, tortillas, all of it. We're done. Okay, we're done with that stuff. You're big kids now. All right, that's it. My rant is done, and I am excusing all of you from your assignment tonight. So no homework tonight, at least not your lecture question, right? No lecture question, I should say. Let's see here. No homework. Make sure you guys get this. No homework. Lecture question. Okay, good. I will delete that category. So don't worry about it. I'll take care of it probably tomorrow. My throat's getting itchy and I'm tired and I want to go inside. Next week. See ya.